A lot of people these days just buy into too much hype. You don't always have to have a Travis Scott. You don't always have to have a Jordan 1, an Air Force 1, off-whites. A lot of times with customs, you can make a very basic shoe turn into something unique and stand out from everybody else. And that's what we're going to do today. Let's take this nice basic all-white court vision mid, and we're going to turn it into something like this, one that I've done personally for myself, make it unique and stand out. Let's get into it. First things first, let's get into the prep. As you can see, I've taken out the laces. Kind of a no-brainer thing to do, but make sure that you take these laces out. Especially when you're dealing with white, a lot of times you'll get some overspray on the laces. You're not going to be able to get those things out. So we're going to go ahead and take out the laces, grab ourselves some 400 grit sandpaper and start scuffing up our bigger parts that we're going to plan on painting. As I said in my last video, when you get to the threads, do not use sandpaper by these threads. What you're going to want to do is get yourself some acetone, use cotton balls, cotton swabs, whatever you need. Get a lot of acetone into this. You're trying to work out a lot of the top coat. That's basically it. If you use sandpaper, these threads are going to puff out and you're going to have a bad look in the end and you're not going to be able to fix it. So do not sand these. On to the next step for prep. Now that I've sanded all the bigger areas that we're going to paint, we're going to go ahead, take some acetone and some cotton, and we're going to go ahead and start working back into those areas that we just sanded. Making sure that all the stitching that we didn't sand, we're going to go ahead and work those really hard. Now, the nice thing about working with a shoe that's all one color is we're not worried about the kind of colors mixing in. Let's say this was black and this was white. We got to be very careful when we're doing these because that black will start to run into the white if we just go over it in big circles. So usually what I'll do, if I have a shoe that's got color in it, I'll use a Q-tip and kind of just work those edges in there, making sure that I'm not transferring paint onto it. I guess the nice thing about it though is you can always go back with acetone, clear off that white or whatever color that you needed it to stay, and it should work fine. But usually with white, what you're gonna see is these threads are gonna grab on and you can't get it out with acetone. So just be careful, take your time, make sure that you're not transferring paint from one pad to another. Now that we got everything sanded and acetone, we're gonna move on to my last step. What I like to use is some adhesion promoter. This just really helps the paint grab on, especially when you're dealing with kids' shoes or somebody who's actively wearing it. Something like cleats, this will work really good. Make sure that you get clear. You know, obviously you don't want any other colors on top of your shoes, so go ahead and grab some of that. You can spray it outside. I'm right next to a window. It's got that really strong spray painty smell, but we're just gonna go ahead and lightly coat it. Just kind of make sure that you're hitting all the spots that you're planning on painting. And all, like I said, that's gonna do is it's just gonna help the paint grab on a little bit and kind of stick and hold so you don't get too much cracking. Now let's get into the painting. What I like to do is I like to go in first. As you can see, I've already hit the top. I like to go in and use a brush, a nice little small fine point, whatever you need. And I like to get into my edges. One thing I've noticed is no matter how good I think that I do my tape jobs, I always miss a corner here. I always get paint onto the panels there. It just makes for more and more touch-ups. So what I found that works, I should say, is I go in, kind of get just little dabs in there, maybe one or two quotes, and just try to get my edges nice and clean. That way when I do my tape jobs, I don't have to be as precise, and I can be a little bit more careful when it comes to not wanting paint to get over to another panel. Okay, so now that we've hit our edges, we can go ahead and start kind of getting into the main painting part. I'm going to be using an airbrush here. I just like the way that the finish it's a lot smoother than using a paintbrush. A lot of times, especially with lighter colors, you'll see a lot of kind of brush strokes in there, and we don't really want that. So let's go ahead and use the airbrush, get a nice flat smooth paint job, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish up all of these tapings and we'll get ready to go. All right, now that we got the base paint down, we're gonna go ahead and peel off some of this tape. Gonna hit this little kind of stitch line with black as well as black out the swoosh. I'm gonna do that all with hand. With black and stuff, you don't really get too much of those brush strokes, so it's easier to just go back. If you got little small pieces that require black on it, you can just go ahead and throw 2 or 3 coats of black by brush. So let's get into that and then we're pretty much done. All right, so now that we got all of the black hand painted in, we're gonna go ahead and move into our finishers. So I'm gonna be using the Angelus matte finish. We're just gonna go ahead and lay down a couple of coats and this shoe is pretty much done. We're gonna lace it up and give it the last review. So let's get into this. All right, there you have it. Shoes are done. All in all, probably took me about 5 hours total from start to finish with these. I like the way they came out. At the end of the day, you can turn these basic shoes into something that stands out. I know a lot of people love hypebeast shoes. I love Travis Scott just as much as the other guy, but at the end of the day, no matter what kind of shoe they are, if they're unique, nobody else has them, they're going to be a head turner. So go ahead, think about it, man. You got some old shoes laying around, you can do stuff with them. So if you guys like what you saw, go ahead and hit that like button, comment what you guys think. If there's any other things that you guys want to see, let me know. Peace.